SIBO, overeating, undereating, too much fat, too little fat. All right, these are all mistakes that a friend of mine, Errin Smith, has done, but she figured out the answer, and she's going to share it within the story of emotional eating, which she also did an amazing summit, by the way, about what she learned in all of these pitfalls that many people are making. So check out this amazing interview and watch how her story and how candid she is could bring answers for many people with those problems, or I should say, those emotional eating problems. Check it out. Hey, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Cyto Detox. Look, podcasts cost money. There's a lot of production going around this, but we are grateful to have Cyto Detox as one of the sponsors. It's so easy for me to talk about the product because myself and my family use it constantly as we practice what I preach. For over 15 years, I've talked about and taught doctors and the public about cellular detox. And I'll tell you, Cyto was a breakthrough. Cyto was a breakthrough for us. And it's changed so many lives. So we're grateful that they sponsor Cellular Healing TV. It makes sense, doesn't it? They should.
If you're listening to this podcast and want to access the amazing Cyto Detox product Dr. Pompa just mentioned, please visit detoxoffer.com. Again, that's detoxoffer.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm Ashley Smith, and today we welcome back friend to the show, Errin Smith. Errin is back to uncover all the details from her personal journey and how it led to her emotional eating summit, What We Crave. Errin will go through her struggles with the keto diet, pinpoint all of the areas where she went terribly wrong, and how she hit her all-time low. On the surface, we think it's diet related, but really underneath it all is an issue that has nothing to do with food. I cannot wait to revisit this conversation. So let's welcome Errin Smith and, of course, Dr. Pompa. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks,
Welcome.
guys.
Oh gosh, listen, anytime I can get with Errin Smith, and Ashley would say the same thing, this is precious time for us because we just love you. And I have to say, look, I said this, right? People learn in the stories. Okay, folks, I can tell you this. Yes, she gained 30 pounds. That beautiful woman across the camera there gained 30 pounds. You're going to see the pictures. Yep. But more importantly, there is so many lessons here. This is where people learn. I told Errin, people need to know what you didn't do, despite the coaching from, I'm going to put myself there with Zach Bush, the two best coaches in the industry, me and Zach Bush. And yet what you violated, what you learned from it, and honestly, what most people need to know, because in so many aspects of this, people are violating some of these things or just thinking we justify things. But, we're going to hear from Errin. Errin, thank you for coming on Cell TV and sharing your story, the details that I know are going to change lives.
Thank you, Dr. Pompa. Yeah, boom. I'll just throw them up right now because
there you go. Pull right in. Yep. Okay. There you see it right there.
Oh, and I got some good after shots, so that's good because I see those
when
too,
she said, I have to confess this. Okay.
Yeah.
Errin and I were chatting, I think via text or Vox or one of the two, and she sent me the pictures. Okay. I lost it. Right. Remember, was it the one? Put the one back up. Because I said to you, I said, oh my God, I thought you were pregnant.
I look like I'm pregnant for sure.
She's not, folks. She's not.
6 months pregnant? Nope.
Yeah, but look, I suffered from SIBO as well, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Of course, she had SIBO, but it went beyond SIBO to just weight gain in general. And again, what you're going to find out in her story here is not what you think necessarily, right? But you can avoid it. You can break through yourself if you pay attention to her lessons that she learned. But honestly, I have to admit though, I'm telling you, I don't know what struck me about it. And I was going through it with you, going, Errin, right? It was like, she was her discipline, literally, her headspace, a lot of her beliefs, she would tell you, right? A lot of the things that she thought she believed, right? And a lot of her upbringing, all of which led to her being so dogmatic into a diet, literally. And it's beyond that, but that led to that. So Errin, let's just kind of break into the story. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm just so happy I can share this with everyone and save everyone, or the people who are struggling with it, 10 years of struggling, because man, I'm just, I just think it's so important, because I got, like you said, as this much coaching and I still did it. But again, it was something deeper. So we'll get into it. But yeah, I think my backstory, I'll give a quick backstory, because that has such major relevance to everything that led to all of this. And so let me just dive in. I mean, really quick, childhood was an Italian mom, eat whatever you want all the time. Food was love, right? And I grew up with 85% of my diet processed food, no real food. Costco muffins were real food, and I never ate healthy whole food. I never ate healthy fats, like no vegetables. I mean, I had a salad was like romaine lettuce with croutons and Thousand Island dressing, and a slice of bread with fake butter on it. You know, my parents were just doing the best they could, like all of us, right? Like what we grew up with. And fast food was a luxury. I was also very extremely scrawny and skinny in junior high, and I could never gain weight for basketball and volleyball. So my dad was like, let's bulk you up. And so he was feeding me all the time to gain weight, and I could never gain weight. And so my brain got wired at a very young age to eat all the time, and I could never gain weight. So it was also this, oh, I can eat whatever I want. And I'm just kind of skinny. So then 18 years of being super scrawny, I hit college and hit the freshman 25 because my metabolism caught up with me, and all that stuff, finally packed on. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. And then I realized in college, well, if you eat salads, you can lose weight. And then I didn't understand any of that. Still learning about, I thought fat was bad in college. So for the next 10 years when I was working in California, I went very low fat South Beach diet, started working for a superfood company. That was my first sales job, and it was straight commission. And that's where I really started to learn all the things about nutrition, like what the power of superfood, right? And the connection to health and cancer and just healing. And so I went all in on that, and I lost a bunch of weight, and I got super skinny because I was basically living off of superfood powder, because I didn't know when I was going to get my next paycheck, because I was straight commission. Right. So constantly in fight or flight, not knowing like if I was going to make rent the next month. So that's part of it too. And then but I loved it so much. I was like, God, I'm just going to go for it. And I went all in, ended up being the number one sales rep out of like 75 people. I got promoted to national sales manager. And then of course I had sales numbers to hit. So then my fight or flight stress response went up. And then I did that for 3 years, working 12 hours a day, working out twice a day, also had an infrared sauna at my house, and was nuking myself just to keep my stress levels down, got totally depleted, lost my period for a year, was not eating any fat or salt or electrolytes, because, fat was bad back then. I literally remember I had to pull over on the 405 freeway and just sleep in the middle of the day, because I would just like crash. And I remember I was under like 5 grams of saturated fat per day for at least a few years, not to mention an anxious wreck because there was no fat, right? And then this is where things shifted. I ended up working a health conference, which was the A4M conference in Vegas.
I remember that day.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of other health vendors, including Bulletproof Coffee. This is when they were first hitting the scene, and their little reps came over and gave me my first sip of Bulletproof Coffee. And it was like, all the lights turned on. My life was like, it was like a rebirth. It was like the heavens parted and the sun shone down on me, and all the angels were singing. I was like, oh my God, I'm alive. And then I went all in on keto after that, because I was so depleted.
All in. I mean, all in here, all in keto.
Right. Extremes. Yep. Paying attention there. And then for about a year, I was on that bulletproof life, like bulletproof coffee every day. I never felt better. But granted, the caffeine was cranking up my anxiety, but I didn't care. I just kept doing beach sprints and like, just go, just continued with my life. And that's right about the time when I was ready to up level my career again, because I got super passionate about vaccine injury and autism. And that's when I met you, and I started working for Revelation Health as the rep for Cyto Detox. And I remember those conferences, I would make everyone bulletproof coffee, all those conferences.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's great. Bulletproof coffee is wonderful. To this day, we think so. But Errin was all in. I mean, she was, but I remember her not going anywhere without bags of food.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was just
honestly.
gonna say that.
I mean, she all healthy, by the way. I mean, granted, all healthy. I mean, she had bags of healthy food, and so she would always provide for us too, right? I mean, so she was that kind
Oh
of
yeah.
girl.
Oh yeah. And I remember going, Dr. Pompa, I have a snack. Do you want macadamia nuts? Do you want a bulletproof bar?
Oh,
You're like,
yeah.
no, I don't eat till dinner. I'm like, what? What do you mean you don't eat till dinner? Because fat doesn't make you fat. So why not, what's going on? And then I learned about intermittent fasting, and I got some coaching and really went into it with block fasting and learning all the things. And then I got hooked even more on keto because I started fasting, and I was like, oh my gosh, whoa, this feeling it was addicting to me, of course, like going extreme. And I definitely used it as a crutch for weight loss, and which I call shame fasting, which we'll talk about in a minute. But fast forwarding, I had done so much fasting and testing my ketones like 5 times a day. And I was like this biohacker, and I felt so good. And then I heard you going, oh, well, I use grass-fed cream and dairy in my coffee. And I was like, let's try that. And then I started putting full fat whipped cream in my coffee. And not to mention, being in California, there is healthy stuff everywhere at your fingertips. And I discovered this really incredible place called the Fermentation Farm in Costa Mesa.
You should have owned stock, because you were the queen of the fermented yogurt.
Yeah, they had these gorgeous, there's like a jar of full fat cream that were fermented, rich in this probiotic, just incredible bacteria.
It's incredible and very healthy. But again, Errin was all into it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember you pop the lid and it's like this beautiful billowing of ice cream almost coming out the top. I would have 3 of those a day sometimes because I felt so good on them, let alone did I know that the dairy would catch up with me. But I remember you tried it and you were like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my life.
Oh, so
and,
good.
And then this is when, as they say, shit hit the fan. Literally, I got another chance to up-level my career. I couldn't say no. So I was a VP of sales position with this new company that was in Florida. And I said, heck yes. And then this is where things blew up again. Literally, that's where this photo comes in, where we get into the deep, sludgy, emotional stuff. I didn't know that this new job would be an absolute train wreck of stress. And this is probably the hardest 2 years of my life of absolute hell. And I was an athlete and I can handle pressure, right? But this was one of the worst, most stressful jobs I've ever had. Also one of the greatest gifts, because the lessons I learned, not only with keto, but about myself, all of it brought me to my knees, and brought me to my purpose in putting on my own production and hosting my own summit on emotional eating, which we'll talk about. But
and by the way, we provide the link for, and we'll have the link, because lessons to be learned. So
but this job, this is what was happening. I would fly to the East Coast, and I'm on Pacific time. So I'd fly East Coast once a week for about 4 days. And I would start at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Eastern time, which is 5 a.m. Pacific. So I was getting up at 3 a.m. Pacific to work out, try and do a spin class. And by the time I got to the office, my ghrelin and leptin, all my hunger hormones were so whacked. I was a total bottomless pit. And then I would also start my day with a big cold brew with cream. And then I was eating about 4 bulletproof bars a day. Grant, those things are so good, and nothing wrong with them, by the way. I just, of course, was overdoing it. But because of the travel, it was like bulletproof bars, avocado, easy stuff. And then not to mention the stress on top of that, I was sitting all day, 12 hours, just sitting, no breaks, just high fight or flight, just complete inflammatory state. And then we'd go to, True Food Kitchen for dinner, where I'd be like, sweet, it's on the company. Let's get apps and wine and dinner and dessert. And I'll just, I'll work till midnight and then I'll crash and do it all again tomorrow. And I did this for an entire year. And that is what led to this inflammatory state in my face. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
But
it looks like a different person, honestly. I mean,
this is me now. Look at I don't know if you can see that, but that was me two weeks ago. So it's nuts. And literally it's nuts. And that's basically the story. And then we can get into
look, obviously I promote diet variation for a reason, right? Weekly, monthly, seasonal, and Errin, you were running the exact opposite. I mean, you were all in one diet, because again, here's why people get locked on one diet, right? Because you start something and you feel good. I mean, you would have argued that with every one of those diets, wouldn't you have? I mean, you're locked in, man.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I remember I was telling everyone like, you have to do it this way. This is amazing. And they're like, chill girl, like, whoa. And
yeah.
yeah, I go all in on stuff. When I find a solution, man, I go, that's what makes me such a good sales rep. Cause I get so passionate
Absolutely.
about it.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, it leads to your success, right? But it
Yeah.
can also lead to your demise. So, I mean,
Yeah.
let's kind of unpack that a little bit, right? So, you know, obviously there was some things that you grew up with, some ideas, some beliefs, right? Now, I think I know this for certain, you know, through your summit, you gained a lot of understanding, not just from your story, but you're able now to look at your story and say, okay, you know, here's really what I identified. You know, for our viewers, our listeners, you know, let's hit on some of those big awakenings that you had that broke you out of this problem, because you don't have the problem anymore. You've broken through.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot on the, man, do you want me to go through more of the emotional stuff first? Do you want me to go to the physical, what I
Yeah,
learned?
you choose, because it all
Yeah.
applies.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the dogma of really on the physical side, you know, fat doesn't make you fat. And like you can eat as much as you want and just always eating in a fed state. Like all these things I learned as a kid, like doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
Eating all the nuts and all the fat bombs and eating out at restaurants and like all these things, even if it's clean and organic and it's all great, but it doesn't mean it will work for you. And for me, I didn't really pay attention to that, where I was in such a high stress of an emotional state that I wasn't willing to pay attention to it, because I just wanted to feel good. And that was it's like, well, it's healthy food. It should make me feel good. And, or, you know, there's nothing bad about this. Right. But really deeper, going into like another deeper level, oh gosh, being like awareness, right? Being completely unaware of what I was doing, definitely. So everyone kept talking about awareness. I was like, okay, cool. Awareness. Oh, now I get what that means. We're like, there's some deeper stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
That I was choosing all of it. Didn't want to hear that either. I was choosing to not have boundaries, to not have self-worth, to not take care of myself, to kill myself, to do all these things. I was choosing all of it. And it was something that was out. It was literally like I wasn't willing to go inward and look at the way I was running my life, because I learned at a young age, my mom had no self-care. My parents were both really hard workers. Like that's what you do to earn a living. And you have to do all the things first, do all of these stressful things first. And then you can rest, then you can relax, but you have to work really hard first and get your approval first, win your gold star, do all the things first. And then you take care of yourself, versus the other way around. So I just had no idea what true self-care was and true self-love was and true worthiness and respect for myself, because I was so focused on health. I was like hyper focused on health, which is a great thing, but I wasn't looking at all the other areas in my life that I was not, like your spirituality, your connection to nature, your connection to purpose, your connection to joy, and all these things. It was like they were all erased on the whiteboard. Just didn't see any of it. I just saw health. And so I wasn't even aware and looking at the whole pie of my life. Trisha Nelson, she said, you don't have an eating problem, you have a living problem. And I was like, oh, damn, that one got to me. I was like, that was me. I wasn't looking at how I was running my life. And it's always a choice. And I thought that
Your whole life was focused on the next fermented yogurt. Your whole life is based on your next bar. Your whole life is based on your next meal, your next exercise, your next, right? I mean, and again, some people, it looks like greatness, right? But the people around you that loved you just knew it wasn't working. We could see it in your eyes. We saw it in your face, right? We saw that. And yet somehow, I guess this is the question I have for you. Somehow you saw it as, I'm just not as disciplined as I need to be, or you're going to answer it. I'm just throwing things out there, or, it's because I ate this and I shouldn't have, or it's because I didn't get enough fat that week. And meanwhile, it's very obvious your body wasn't breaking it down, but, so what, like, in other words, what made you violate the obvious? Hey, it's not working, Errin, and
yeah.
Like, how did you violate that? I mean, how did you not see what we saw?
Yeah, honestly, I think one is when you're almost 6 feet tall, you can hide a lot of the weight gain, so it doesn't really pop up until
Yeah, but you
like
couldn't hide
3
it in your
months.
face though.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
couldn't tell. I thought I was just like sleep deprived. Like I just thought it was my like,
Yeah.
oh, just I need sleep. But my excuse was, well, I work out really freaking hard. I work really hard and I need the energy because this is what makes me feel good. I need all of this energy and power to like fuel this demanding job. And again, just wasn't aware. I had no awareness
Yeah.
of like, no, it's you need to have boundaries and you need to like love yourself and do all these things that don't create this mess of like, why are you eating? Why do you need to eat all the time? Like, what are you really craving? And I was literally craving a connection to myself that I had lost throughout all this history of working and trying to prove myself on the outside. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so again, we understand the healthy benefits of fat, but you were eating so much fat, your body wasn't able to break it down or utilize it. So then the fat became something that caused you to gain weight. You can only do so much or burn so much, right? And it's probably a little different for everybody. It is different for everybody, but how long did you eat the high fat for? Because remember, you were low fat, then you went high fat.
Right. Oh man, it was at least probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I thought it was about 2 years.
Yeah. It was 2 years, I think, when I was working with you. And then the last year was when it got really bad when I was in Florida working.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's when
you also went crazy with the fasting too, right? I always say to people, look, you can fast too much, right? Because I deal with that a lot, right? I talk about, fasting and feasting, right?
Yeah.
And the feast is as important as the fast and the fast is as important as the feast. But again, you mastered feasting, then you got into fasting.
Oh man, yeah, it was. I was the master feaster. Maybe that's my nickname. No, but not anymore. But I mean, when I would fast, like I knew it was definitely out of shame because I was like, God, I'm working in this health space. I'm gaining all this weight. All of a sudden it would catch up with me, right? Like after a month, I'm like, crap, I just gained another 15 pounds. And I would feel guilt and be like, well, I know how to fast, so I might as well fast it off. And then I would get into ketosis. I mean, my fast started at 5 days when I first learned, then they led to like 14, 15 days. Cause I was like, no, I'm burning this off. I'm so mad at myself. Mm-hmm. And then I would break my fast because I had done so many fasts. I wouldn't break it the right way. And I would go up to the Bulletproof Cafe and get a bone broth. And then I'd get a, keto, burger and some, what do they have? Like the burger with a keto ice cream and then a bulletproof scone. But because it was keto, then I was like, oh, granted, it's a whole thing of nuts. Like it's a nut flour scone that's this big. And I would eat one of those right after I got done fasting. And then there was erythritol in the ice cream. And you wonder why my gut would just explode again.
Yeah,
right?
what leads to SIBO, because when you're fasting that long, I always talk about the importance of breaking a fast correctly. Another important lesson in Errin's story, your motility slows down, and then these bacteria can start building up in the small intestine, right? And you were putting away plenty of the fermented foods too fast too. But anyway, so you could talk about your SIBO lessons, because that was obviously part of what led to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just thought, oh, it's just the erythritol. I'll just be bloated for a little bit and then it'll go away. I kind of, again, just pushed it away like, oh, this is just the bacteria at first and then it'll get better, but I would literally have three of those. This is full fat cream. Like imagine that's literally like a small, like whole thing of cream, like that you pour in your coffee. Like that's how much I was eating a day. And so again, it just didn't work for me. Some people can do dairy. I couldn't. And, I had actually cut out dairy a long time ago in my college days. And I was like, oh, I could probably try and bring it back because it's keto. And like, everyone can have dairy on keto. No, I didn't break it down. Maybe I could have a little bit, but not in these like buckets that I was eating. Whoops. And I, once I got like, again, I don't know how many times I had to fast that off. And, it was at least a year of like trying to figure this out. After I finally just said, okay, I got to remove the dairy. It took me a full year and just finally owned it to be like, you can't have dairy anymore, Errin, like take out the dairy. And then it slowly started to get better, which I know we'll talk about what I did to get better. But, man, it just didn't work for me, and it, like, at that level, it was absolutely insane. Like, you got to go look back and be like, what was I thinking? But
Yeah.
again, it was literally, I was just craving just comfort, because it made you feel so good. All the bacteria goes to your brain. You feel high almost because it feels so good to get that much bacteria.
Well,
And
absolutely. And most of the time, the foods that we're most intolerant to were actually addicted to. You think that was part of your case of why you became addicted to the very foods that seem to be blowing you up?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. That's why it took me so long to get off of it.
Yeah.
I was addicted for sure.
Exactly.
No balance.
Although those fermented yogurts were really good, I was always like, gosh, she can really put these things away. It's like,
That's why me and Marilee get along so well.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, right? My wife, someone accused her of eating like a linebacker once. But anyways, okay, let's, we're unpack some of the physical and emotional lessons, because obviously that led to, how you fix the whole mess, right? So you did the summit, that, million lessons there. Keep walking us through. I mean, there was many of your lessons here that people need to know, that how you got out of this.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, first of all, I realized that I was completely disconnected from myself, and my spiritual connection, because again, that was a childhood thing that I had pushed away a long time ago. My dad was extremely religious and pushed that away. And life kept kind of hitting me over and over again, like, pay attention in ways that we all know that life kind of gives us hints. And definitely had to reconnect to my spiritual connection, to nature, just slowing down and breathing. Wasn't doing that. And Josh Trent, who is amazing, also on the summit, talks about the power of breath work. I was like, you got to be kidding me, like, breath work, really? And just breathing. And there's so much healing in breath work that we are so missing the boat on, that I wasn't doing. Started integrating meditation and like actual self-care, in the morning, and not looking at my phone in the morning, and getting rid of the toxic relationships in my life. And also, of course, I left my toxic workplace. Of course, I left that, but it was really, man, it was a connection to myself that I had to figure out my own like personal needs of, what does Errin need? What did she not get as a kid when I was little? Like, what I started looking at my triggers. I had to look at my family history and the wiring that I grew up with and the scarcity mindset. I had to look at how my dad grew up as a kid, and what amount of love he didn't receive. And same with my mom. All of these things, again, that have nothing to do with food. I looked at my finances, how I, was looking for external validation outside myself, like how I saw my own personal being as like my own worthiness. How did I see myself? My need to people please, my, again, boundaries, like looking at that whole pie, and really looking at my triggers, because that's really, the triggers are the teachers. And we don't want to admit, like, when we get triggered, we blow up just like that SIBO bacteria. And we look at those triggers, those are meant to teach us where we're not free. And I interview, Peter Crone on that. And just that, where do you need to heal? It's always a reflection of where do you need to heal, and it's nothing outside of yourself. And for me, I was just too busy to slow down and actually be with myself, and to actually own up to all of these things and really take a look and like look at an honest inventory of my life. Yeah.
I mean, you obviously made the connection, to all of these things you're saying, right? And the emotional aspects, the wounds, the trapped emotions that we have, when we're younger, and you realized, okay, I could go to this diet, to that diet, to this, to that, to this. And you realize that all of that was symptoms, right? All the overeating, all of that symptoms, you finally figured out, I think the best line was, you've got a life problem here, not an eating problem, right? So true, but I guess what I would say is, what were some of the breakthroughs, man, that really dialed you in, right? Okay. And then I want to give our viewers some specifics too. You talked about some of the answers, like, breathing was important. You educated yourself there. But for most people, like, what does that mean? Right. You know what I'm saying? But before you get there, because I do want to give people some very specific things that you did. You made the realization, that was step one. You realized that, okay, I'm not, living life. These are symptoms. I have these causes. What was the big breakthrough that led to that? And then, then what?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I literally, I had this gut reaction, like gut feeling that like I need to leave California and like go, like just get out of this rat race and like get in. I was literally craving the mountains and the lakes again. I started craving nature, and I got quiet with myself enough to listen that I needed to leave. Yeah. And sometimes just going out in nature and listening for answers and like what you need to do, your soul knows and it'll guide you. But that was, I think what happened was I saw some picture of myself. This was me at my worst. And I remember taking this picture going, I'm done with this. Like, it was just like that moment where you're like, what is going on? Because I know better. I am the healthiest, like, health nut ever. And I'm turning into this, like, what is going on? So I think I had to literally unplug and go back.
So I just read Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey book, his book, right?
Yeah.
And he had to do that 3, maybe 4 times during his life, right? And that was led to his breakthroughs, because he realized at different times that life was not going in a direction that was healthy, right? For many reasons, he unfolds that in his book. But each time he knew, based on a dream that he had, that, I've got to get into, nature, basically isolate himself, right? So maybe nature's not your thing. Whatever it is, he got away from the life. He left, like you, he left the rat race of LA. He left, and then he went all the way to South America. And then the next time he went to Africa, right? It's like, so, but in those times, he saw his life for what it was. And then he saw it for what it should be. So, and then he came back and then basically redefined his life, got on a different path, and then his life changed. And then he had to go through another reset. So I think all of us as humans, number one lesson from you is that we need those times where we have to isolate ourselves, desert island experiences, whatever it is. But if somebody's going through a time where you're like, okay, I'm addressing the symptoms, not the cause of what's going on in my life, you may need time to discover yourself. You may need time alone with yourself and God, and to really shake that out. And that's what you did.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I literally just leaned into it and started taking it one day at a time, and whatever felt right to me. Cause again, we're all in our own phases of life. And I just found ways to start, peeling away at those layers. And over time, it led me back it took me about 2.5 years to get fully back to this place where I am now. But yeah, it was like, if you just lean in and just start listening and again, just that connection to yourself, I think that's where it all starts. And really, really listening to whatever that is for you.
But you have to quiet your life to do that. And you have to isolate yourself oftentimes to do that. Right. So, and that's what you did. And that's why you got the answer. The second thing you mentioned was breathing. We had a gentleman on, right? He talked about how breathing, literally, it can be a cellular response. I've educated myself deeply in something called the integrative stress response, where out of these traumas that you're describing, our body's trying to protect itself, right? It's even known as the cellular danger response. And what happens is that everything you're describing starts, the body thinks it's doing the right thing, but it gets stuck here, just making something simple. But he talked about breathing as a way to upregulate your mitochondria that actually is trying to save your life by downregulating cellular energy as a way of getting you out of the sympathetic state that you were in. So he gave some breathing things. What did you do exactly?
Yeah, well, I got my butt into yoga class because I was still struggling just to even try to breathe. And that always helps. Like, have a coach walk you through it if you can't.
Yeah, right. True.
But Josh Trent, he's got an app. It's called Breathe. And I just downloaded that, and it's literally just walks you through this breathing. It's called box breathing. There's a few different kinds, but you literally, it shows you how to breathe correctly, which when you breathe, you want to be breathing out. Your belly needs to be going out, not in. And I was doing it the wrong way the whole time. And you need to take deep breaths out and in, and you actually need to breathe through, anyways, I can't do it perfectly, but you want to plug one nostril and breathe in through one nostril, and then he walks you through how to do the rest of it. I'm not I just follow the app, but it's basically a really simple 5-minute exercise, and you hold it.
What was the app? Just repeat the app. So
breathe. Breathe.
Right.
Yeah, just look up Josh Trent, breathe.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So because you're right. I mean, breathing is a way to break you out of that sympathetic dominant state, just to keep it really simple. Parasympathetic is a relaxed state. It's a regeneration state, sleeping state, digestion state, but when you're sympathetic all the time, then you're not in any of those good states that you need for recovery and healing.
Yeah. And that's why part of my reason was why I was reaching for the food, because my body was just reaching for something to calm me down and give me the dopamine to just chill me out. Or, there's lots of reasons, but I remember when I went and traveled to Bali with Meredith, and I was like, oh, I'm breathing and I'm eating slow, and this is really enjoyable. That's the way it's supposed to be. But I had to have the know-how to go, oh, I'm not even, again, the awareness around, I'm not even breathing. That was the first step for me for sure too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, oftentimes people in that, matter of fact, in that interview, we discussed, the fact that people, they're breathing more rapidly as a part of that cellular danger response or integrative stress response, meaning not knowing. They're breathing more rapidly because in this state, your body feels like CO2, which he described as CO2 is just not the bad air that you're trying to get rid of, the bad gas. It actually has another purpose of releasing oxygen off of your red blood cells. And so when CO2 gets real low, your body is breathing fast, clearing the CO2, because in this danger response, your body thinks the CO2 is all bad, all bad, all bad. But the problem is you're getting rid of CO2, dropping your cellular oxygen levels, and you're in this state of just not feeling well, simply put.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It is one of the biggest, sleep and breath work, one of the two biggest hacks for sure.
Did you notice your sleep change? Like what we talked about, you get the pictures and all and how you felt, but what was your sleep like then? I mean, granted, you were working the way you're working, but let's say you didn't work. Let's say you were resting and you didn't have work. Did you sleep good? Did you have a way of measuring your sleep, your deep sleep?
At that time I didn't. I was just in a hotel room for, half the month basically, or 3/4 of the month, and trying to be on back and forth Florida, East Coast, West Coast time. And I just, I don't think I even had a sleep supplement at that time. And so I wasn't getting deep REM sleep. And of course now I do, which is one of the reasons why I got out of it. This whole mess. But yeah, I was just like, oh, I usually sleep pretty well, but then I didn't even know how good I wasn't sleeping until I actually slept well.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So you would go to sleep, wake up, but you realized, you really weren't hitting the deep and the sleep, the REM sleep that you need. REM sleep lets your brain recover. Deep sleep lets your body physically recover, and neither you were getting very well. All right. Give us some other tips that broke you out of it. First, you realize, realization number one, you isolated yourself, to even realize that there was a problem and what to do about it, and see what your life was really like and, not like. And then third, breathing. Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. And then just some easy hacks. I stopped going out to restaurants. I started cooking from home. And those hidden oils and the hidden I wasn't in California anymore, so I couldn't go to Cafe Gratitude and True Food Kitchen. It was like I literally had to remove myself, and so not cooking from home, my inflammation went down so much in my face just because of the toxic oils that they use, or they cut. Maybe True Food Kitchen maybe cuts it. I don't know.
And by the way, they do, because remember when you go there with my wife and I, we are Nazis about the oils, to the point we tell them we're allergic. And even in those healthy places, they're like, well, you can only eat, and they'll come back with like maybe 2 things, right? It's like, yeah, some of those places were actually the biggest violators I found. They're cutting olive oil with vegetable oil. And the only reason you discover that is if you tell them you're actually allergic to it, then they get serious. But yeah, and those oils, they stay in your cells for months, causing cellular disruption. It's worse than sugar.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And just cooking from home and swapping out with a really good olive oil is like, there's Casandrinos is a great brand. I forgot the one you guys love too. There's I forgot the name of it. But it's like the dry farm wines of olive oil. You can get shipped to your door.
Yeah. I mean, I Pompa olive oils. That's what takes you there. But gosh, what is the name of it? But they give you the first pressed olive oil, which is very hard to find, by the way. That's why I use them.
Yeah, that made a huge difference. I decided to get off all the bars and all the nuts and all the almond flours and literally just eat whole food. And I thought,
by the way, that's the other thing too, is those things you just mentioned are like, I find a lot of people in our space, they're the healthy bars, they're still junk food. They're still, if you look at the carbs on them, it's still massively just what are oftentimes super sugars, because they're gluten-free, they're this, they're that, right? But the fact is then they're putting tapioca starch and this, that, and they end up to be really healthy junk food.
Right. And not to mention just like a brick in your stomach. A lot of them I just didn't digest very well, obviously. And granted, like if I'm at a airport and there's nothing else and you hand me a bar, I'll probably eat it, or just fast, like either one. Like there's going to be a time where maybe I'll have one, but I am like, no more bars. Like I remember going into the grocery store and I saw them all lined up and my body's just like, no, Errin, stay away. Like I could feel my body like pushing myself away from these bars. And it was the biggest blessing because I would never feel satiated on those things. I would never feel.
I don't eat bars. I don't. I don't eat healthy bars. I just don't eat bars because to me, to make them taste good, there's a lot of violations for me. So
oh, totally. And the I stopped with the fat bombs and the snacky keto snacks. Like I just cut all that out, and that contributed to so much more eating because my body was like, this is not whole food. I don't know what to do with this. It's still processed. I don't care if it's keto and organic. Like I need some whole food. And so I was like, oh my God, it is that easy. Just eat whole food. That helps so much with cravings and feeling satiated and just feeling grounded and like whole, like real nourishment. Cause I would always kept eating those snacks. I'm like, God, I just keep eating these. Because you're never really nourished because you're not getting the fiber.
I remember. I mean, you were always, sounds kind of rude, but I mean, you were always putting food in your mouth. I mean, you were, right? And honestly, here I am going like, shoot, I have to remind myself to eat, right? What the difference, right? It wasn't your discipline over mine, not at all. It's just my cells were burning my own fat. My cells were utilizing energy very efficiently, right? You had broken your cells. I mean, your cells literally were like, we need more food. We need more food. But again, you identified too, a lot of it was from these things that you discovered, right? From, from your childhood, from growing up, and again, you had to break free of that.
Right. The soothing from stress. Yeah. All of that. Another thing, obviously, is I stopped eating the yogurts and got rid of as much of that, like everything that wasn't whole food. I just tried to just really put that away, cleaned out my cupboards. Instead of creamer, I found MCT powder and just put that in my black coffee. I know Drew Manning has a good line, Complete Wellness. Throw that in with maybe a splash of oat milk or something. And that's it. Like literally made a drastic change. I can't even do MCT oil anymore because my stomach just won't digest it. It just gets gurgly and it won't. It's like not having it. I'm done with this. It's been too much for too long. So I just really tried to listen to my body and just go whole food. And that was really the biggest shift. And let's see, what else did I do? I started taking Ion Gut Health religiously every day, like for, I don't even know how many years.
We use it for everybody because it closes leaky gut. It gets your bacteria communicating, which is it's how you win the war. Get your army to start communicating with each other.
Oh yeah. Because I would spot treatment and take it here and there, but when I was traveling, I wasn't consistent. And when I came back to the lakes and the mountains, and just grounded. I was like, I'm taking this every day, 3 times a day. And that, man, my gut, my bloating and the SIBO just naturally balanced out. Of course, I had removed the dairy as well and the erythritol, which was a huge piece of it, and the stress. I removed that as well. And so all of that combined, I just stacked the odds towards my favor, 10x. I just stacked all of them by removing all of that and adding in Ion Gut Health.
Yeah, by the way, you mentioned erythritol several times. These alcohol sugars, again, they're in a lot of the healthy snacks. They're in a lot of the healthy bars. And if you do have small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, I can tell you personally myself, they are like gasoline on a fire. I mean, they flare up SIBO big time, and you get the bloats from those things. So if you eat those things and get bloats, it's a sign you probably have SIBO. But getting rid of them, and you got rid of everything your body was reacting to, like, so you knew you weren't doing well with dairy, right? Got rid of that. So, all right, keep going. What else?
Yeah, let's see. Again, sleep. I added Barton's upgraded formulas magnesium. That was one of the best hacks for my deep sleep that I've tried. I know there's a lot of great sleep products, but that's the one that I had tried, and that was amazing.
Barton this weekend. We utilized his products in my programs as well. But yeah, he has a great magnesium and great minerals.
Yeah. Yep. Great product. And honestly, as much as, besides all the emotional stuff I already mentioned, those were the biggest things. And then I really started working on my personal joy and having more fun in life, and going and hugging my nephews and hanging out with friends again, and not like burying myself in work all week, and going out into nature and going camping by myself. And
I watched you go through that. I remember texting you, where are you? And it's like, you went through that as part of your healing. Yeah. And it worked.
Oh yeah. Being near family again. And I have 4 little nephews that are just loves of my life. They just light me up, and I have so much gratitude when I'm around them and in nature. That's when my gratitude is the biggest for my life and this beautiful machine that we've been given. Like, the appreciation I have for my body now is so much different than what it used to be. Before, it was just like, go, go, go. And now it's, oh my gosh, love and connect and respect, and respect Mother Nature, respect your connection to your whatever it looks like, to your God, your spirit, your soul, like that deep stuff. That is what it's all about. Like, it really, and those nephews just brought it right out of me. I mean, I look at them and I cry. I'm just always in such a state of gratitude. And when I was in California, it wasn't that energy. It was such a different energy, even though there was beach volleyball and all these amazing things, but I didn't have that groundedness that family gives. Yeah.
Well, no doubt. I start my day with a gratitude journal, right? Just what I'm thankful for. And, it's just something about writing it down that is so magical. And when your brain is in that and focused on things you are so truly grateful. And to me, mine always leads to prayer. I always end up, because I'm always like, gosh, I'm grateful for something that God is done in my life. And I always end up in prayer, just absolutely thanking God for everything in my life. And man, when you put your brain in that state, your cells follow, I can tell you.
Oh, 100%. I noticed just naturally the weight loss the inflammation, the weight loss just naturally started just dissipate, because I wasn't like looking at a scale. I was just loving myself and connecting to gratitude, and like getting rid of all the other just junk, and just focusing in on the simple things that matter. And man, especially with COVID, if it is not the clearest day to be focusing on each other and connection and nature and our health, and like taking care of each other, and just kindness and love and gratitude. Like, those are such clear, like, red flags right now.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
COVID was a blessing to our family. And I say that, I say that almost in a way of like, gosh, I hate even saying that, because it was not for other people, right? So I am cautious how I say that, but we intentionally did that as a family. I remember doing early on a Facebook Live, and I stated my intentions as a family, right? One was, man, we're going to make this the greatest time ever, and I'll tell you where I got that from, is I felt like through my life, I had gone through so many things, like, the crashes, the emotional times. And I always thought, gosh, I've never been one of those guys that benefited from that. Like, man, the 2008 crash was great for me. My business, or this had And I think I was blessed enough that I read something about, in times of great duress, you can really make it an incredible time for yourself. So I intentionally chose that for our family. So, but I did one other step. We went around and we said, how are we going to do that? Right. We're going to spend more time together. We had, more family dinners. We had game night. We intentionally set it up, and man, it was all that. And there was another bizarre intention. Now, this is going to sound crazy to some people too, is I said to the kids, let's get COVID as quick as we can, because this is not going to go away anytime soon. This is going to be with us for years to come. And I believe there was just no avoiding it. Right. So we hit all of that. We did all of it. We had the best years. We got closer as a family. We had a blast. We all got COVID. We got better, stronger from it. My wife didn't even get a symptom except she lost her sense of smell, but she has massive antibodies. But anyways, the bottom line is be intentional. You were, and that's what we did too.
Yeah. And just to add to that, it's so true. I noticed one of the biggest things that I was not getting when I was in California, as much as I love people because I was where I was living, I didn't get a lot of hugs. Like when I'm back home with family, and especially during COVID, we amped up the hugs too. We were like hugs and like love, and like that isolation will literally drop your immune system. So we like went all in on hugging, and like we're not staying 6 feet apart. Like we're going all in on the love and hugging. Like I notice when I'm with my nephews and with people in person, in human form, the cravings for food went way down, like just instant parallel, that we're not getting enough hugs. We're not getting enough connection. As much as this is great and we can connect and reach tons of people, like there's nothing like the physical form. Like we need to be in physical form. Like that is our wiring. Yeah. And so when I noticed that was a huge piece of it for me too.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Errin, you're on the other side of it with many, many lessons. Your summit has been a blessing to so many people with emotional eating issues. There's a cause, find it. You did. You put yourself in the intentional places to find it. It worked, and it will for those listening. So many lessons here to unpack. Watch the summit, folks. We'll put up the link right now. You can check it out. But Errin Smith's lessons, they apply to many. Thank you. Thank you for all your mistakes. Thank you for I'll tell you what, though, that fermented dairy stuff, man, that was really good. That was amazing.
I know. Oh man, thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me just be super vulnerable. I hope it helped, whoever's out there. Like it was this learning all of these things in the summit just turned my brain on and made me so aware, and it helped me so much. So I hope it helps you. It starts November 2nd, but yeah, you can sign up. There, put a link in the show notes, but yeah, it is. I'm so grateful that you were a part of it, and I have all these amazing rock stars a part of this summit, and that everyone has their own story, and I'm just so grateful that I got to share mine here with you, and you get to be on mine, and like we just get to help change the world. I just appreciate you guys so much, because this is the stuff that matters. So thank you.
I know that the summit, there's so, like I said, we can't cover it all here, but there's so much learning in it. And this is a big problem, right? And step number 1, identify that this may be a problem with you, and watch the dang summit. Thanks, Errin. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, guys.
Love you.
Love you.
I want to give thanks to one of our sponsors, SIBO Defend. Look, at a time like this, I think that our immune system and keeping our immune system up right now is more important than ever. I can also tell you that I pay attention to the things that keep my immune system on par and healthy. So glad that SIBO Defend is one of our sponsors here on Cell TV. And it's a product that I use, my family uses, and hopefully you'll check it out. And by the way, you can check it out with the link right here below. If you want to try a free bottle, you can actually get a free bottle, just pay the shipping. And I think you'll reorder after that, but check it out.
If you're listening to this podcast and want to access the amazing SIBO Defend product Dr. Pompa just mentioned, please visit freeimmunity.com. Again, that's freeimmunity.com. Well, that's it for this week. The materials and content within this podcast are intended as general information only and are not to be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you would like to purchase some of the supplements mentioned on this show, please visit the site as seen on CHTV.com and use the code CHTV15 for 15% off. Again, that's as seen on CHTV.com. Use the code CHTV15 for 15% off. And as always, thanks for listening.